The story of Daniel in the lion's den is a narrative that resonates through the centuries, transcending cultural and religious barriers. More than a simple tale of faith and survival, it presents itself as a multifaceted drama where themes of power, envy, politics, and the eternal question of divine intervention intertwine. This biblical account, found in the book of Daniel, invites us on an exploration that goes far beyond popular imagination. This book proposes a deep and detailed immersion into the events that led Daniel to face certain death. We will analyze the political and social context of the Babylonian and Persian courts, delving into the psychology of the characters involved and, in a unique way, examining the plausibility of certain events from a scientific and historical perspective. We invite the reader on a journey of discovery, where the sacred text meets archaeological research, behavioral biology, and philosophy. Prepare to question the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural, and to understand why the story of Daniel continues to be one of the most powerful and intriguing accounts of all time. To truly understand the drama of the lion's den, it is essential to immerse ourselves in Daniel's complex life. He was not just a man of unwavering faith. He was a political and intellectual genius, a born strategist whose journey began in one of history's most challenging transitions. Captured and taken to Babylon as a young nobleman, he was enrolled in an elite training program designed to assimilate the best youth from conquered nations and turn them into loyal advisors to the empire. In this environment of high competition and intrigue, Daniel distinguished himself not only by his intelligence and knowledge of his nation's scriptures, but also by a wisdom and integrity that the Babylonians, with their own beliefs and philosophies, could not ignore. His refusal to defile himself with the king's food and wine, for example, was not just an act of religious devotion, but a declaration of identity and discipline that established his reputation early on. He became an indispensable advisor, serving kings of different dynasties, Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, and, finally, Darius the Mede. Daniel's ability to interpret dreams and visions, like Nebuchadnezzar's statue or the enigmatic writing on the wall for Belshazzar, was a divine gift but also a testament to his profound insight and analytical capacity. He understood the dynamics of power, the weaknesses of leaders, and the consequences of their actions. This ability elevated him to the position of prime minister or president under the reign of Darius. His journey shows us that faith need not be blind. It can coexist and be strengthened by intelligence, strategy, and integrity. Daniel's story is that of a man who used his sharp mind and faithful heart to thrive in hostile environments, shaping not only his own life but the trajectory of empires. Daniel's rise in the court of Darius the Mede did not go unnoticed. While the king favored him and considered placing him over the whole kingdom, the other satraps and governors felt their own power and influence diminishing. They were driven by a burning envy, a corrosive jealousy that led them to plot Daniel's downfall. Their first attempt was to find faults in his administration, but Daniel's integrity was so impeccable that they could not find a single shadow of an accusation. His governance was just honest and irreproachable, frustrating all their efforts. The conspiracy then became more cunning and malicious. They realized that Daniel's weakness, paradoxically, was his greatest strength, his unwavering faith in God. The conspirators devised a plan to use the very law of the kingdom against him. They approached Darius with a flattering proposal, manipulating his ego by suggesting a decree that would solidify his divinity and power. They persuaded him to sign a law that, for 30 days, would prohibit any prayer to another god or man other than the king himself, under penalty of being thrown into the lion's den. The cunning of the trap lay in its irreversibility. The law of the Medes and Persians was an iron rule of the empire. Once the king sealed a decree with his signet ring, it became irrevocable. The conspirators knew that Daniel, because of his devotion, would never cease his prayers. The tragedy was preordained. The story serves as a case study on the psychology of envy and unbridled ambition, showing how these feelings can lead to elaborate and cruel plans, using the very structures of state power and a leader's weaknesses to eliminate an adversary. Aware of the decree, Daniel did not hide. His routine remained unchanged. 3 times a day, he continued to pray in his room with the windows open towards Jerusalem, defying the law with a demonstration of courage and silent faith. When the conspirators saw him, they brought the accusation to the king. Darius, filled with desperation and remorse, tried in every way to annul the decree. But the law was relentless. With a heavy heart, he ordered Daniel to be thrown into the den, but not before uttering the famous phrase, full of hope, "Your God, whom you continually serve, he will deliver you." In our imagination, the lion's den is a pit full of hungry, ferocious animals. But what can archaeology and biology tell us about this? Zooarchaeology, the study of animal remains at ancient sites, suggests that these dens could have been pits dug into the earth or stone structures used to keep captured wild animals. Lions, native to the Near East region, were often kept for royal hunts or public executions. Ethology, the science of animal behavior, offers crucial factors. A lion's ferocity is directly proportional to its hunger. Sated lions tend to be less aggressive. Furthermore, the dynamics of a pride of lions are complex, with well-established hierarchies. The presence of a calm and motionless human, without the movements and sounds of a panicked prey, could confuse the predators. In many cases, the absence of a fear response, such as a scream or an attempt to flee from the prey, can lead the predator not to initiate an attack. Daniel's posture, his serenity, and his absolute lack of fear may have been interpreted by the lions not as a threat, but as a sign of dominance or simply something that did not fit their hunting patterns. The night Daniel spent in the den is the turning point of the story, the great enigma. The biblical narrative is direct and unequivocal. My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions. But what can modern science, with its tools and knowledge, offer as a complementary perspective? Neurobiology shows us that a human in a situation of extreme danger releases a cascade of hormones, such as adrenaline and cortisol, which prepare the body for a fight or flight response. These hormones, along with an increased heart rate and muscle tension, produce a scent and body language that can be detected by animal predators, acting as a powerful signal of fear and vulnerability. This signal, in turn, can instigate an attack. However, Daniel, in his supernatural calm, did not release these signals. His faith and trust in God gave him a peace that transcended physical fear. This absence of panic and his peaceful posture may have had a calming and disorienting effect on the lions. On the other hand, the roar of faith reminds us that some realities may be beyond our capacity for understanding. The story does not ask us to discard biology, but to consider that there may be forces operating outside the parameters of our knowledge. The biblical text does not suggest that the lions were simply not hungry. It states that the intervention was divine. The story of Daniel places us at a fascinating crossroads, that of an event that could have a partial explanation in biology and psychology, but whose fullness and meaning can only be achieved through the acceptance of a miracle. It is this debate that makes the story so powerful and intriguing for both believers and skeptics. Dawn arrived. King Darius, who had spent the night fasting and sleepless, rushed to the den with the first light of day, his heart heavy with despair. As he approached the pit, he cried out with a trembling voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you continually serve, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Daniel's response, "My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions," echoed like an affirmation of hope and divine confirmation. The king's joy was immense. He ordered Daniel's immediate release. The end of the story is, however, brutal. The accusers and their families were thrown into the same den, where the lions instantly devoured them. This dramatic epilogue, common in narratives of divine justice in the Old Testament, serves to reinforce the sanctity of the intervention. The story of Daniel, with its conclusion of justice and vindication, became a symbol of unwavering faith. Over the centuries, this narrative has become a universal archetype. It has been immortalized in countless works of art, from early Christian catacombs to Renaissance frescoes and the dramatic paintings of Gustave Doré and Rembrandt. It has been retold in literature, music, and, more recently, in cinema, becoming a source of inspiration for those who face persecution or injustice. Daniel's story transcended its historical context to become a cultural myth, a powerful metaphor for human resilience, moral integrity, and the belief that genuine faith can move mountains, or, in this case, shut the mouths of lions. Daniel's story places us at a crossroads of thought. Science, with its quest for empirical explanations, can offer insights into animal behavior, social dynamics, and human psychology. It can give us plausible reasons for the lions not to have attacked: satiation, Daniel's calm posture, the unfamiliar environment. However, all these explanations, no matter how logical, do not capture the essence of what the biblical narrative intends to communicate. The story is not just a report of events, but a parable about the relationship between man and the divine. The true strength of Daniel's story does not lie in choosing between the miracle and logic, but in recognizing the productive tension between the two. Faith does not require us to ignore reason, but to recognize it as a tool, not the only source of truth. Daniel's deliverance was more than the survival of a man. It was the validation of a promise, the confirmation that loyalty to God is rewarded. Ultimately, the story invites us to consider that, even in an explainable world, there is room for the inexplicable. It challenges us to look beyond what our eyes can see and our reason can decipher, and to ask ourselves, what would you do if your faith were your only hope?